It's Monday. It's 9 p.m. You're in the lab. It's another episode of the lab tonight. It's 9 o'clock. It's Eastern Standard Time, and we have Mike and we have Jordan joining us. It's been a while. We missed you, Jordan. We love you. All right. So let's get things started. Avengers Assemble is out. So how are we going to start the show? We're going to start the show talking about what we like Avengers Assemble after having a week with it. Now, I've had a chance to play a couple games. Didn't get a chance to play in any of the sealeds, unfortunately. Schedules didn't work that way. But we're gonna each pick our favorite figure and why they're that favorite figure from each rarity. So we're gonna start with the commons. Let's start with Mike. Mike, what's your favorite common from Avengers Assemble?
My favorite common is Scarlet Spider. I think it's a really cool generic, non-generic character. It relies on having more than one of itself, even though it's named. I think it's really cool. Plus, the stats on it are pretty mental. I'm just trying to pull it up here so that I can read it off. Let's see. Scarlet Spider. There we go. Okay. So yeah, improved movement ignores elevated terrain, hindering terrain. Scarlet Spider can use sidestep if he is adjacent to another friendly character named Scarlet Spider. Very interesting. I suggest having 3 of these just for optimal placement using sidestep. Scarlet Spider can use regeneration. This is his special defensive power. When he does, and the result is 1, you may choose to place him in your starting area on his starting click. You get rewarded for failing. It's amazing. Scarlet Spider can use shape change. He succeeds on a result of 4 to 6. This is his special damage power. If another friendly character named Scarlet Spider is on the map. So obviously you're supposed to play them in at least a pair. But I think their stats are good enough to be able to play multiples, more than 3 even. 60 points, starting click 8, 10, 17, 3 with Flurry right off the top. Pretty amazing. Really like it. Even the keywords are great. Initiative, which is a common one in this set. Also adding to the New Warriors pack, and armor. Armor is really cool because it interacts well with another character that I'll talk about in a little bit.
All right. Awesome. Jordan, favorite common from the set?
My favorite common, since I've only done a little bit of playtesting with the set, is Rage, and that's because I played him in the sealed. He did very well for me because everyone thought, hey, let's hit him for 3 damage.
He's on what click now?
Yeah, nobody really expected it out of a 74 point figure, especially if you hit him for 4, toughness buffs at 1. He gets to 9 charge, 12 super strength, 18 impervious, 4 with Battle Fury.
Yep. Yeah. I was playing a game with the New Warriors. Although I did learn to hate that keyword with Amber, I did have a rage kind of hit that peak click against her, which it's fun to be on that click, but you're taking damage to get there. Myself, I have a little bit of a soft spot for Triathlon, not the Prime, but Triathlon himself. A character comes in at 60 points with Charge and Flurry. Along with 3 damage and 11 attack on his first click is
so nice.
It's such a bargain. So he was kind of the one that stood out for me. I gotta get a few more games in with him. He's definitely got burst potential because Triathlon does have a ID card. The idea, like characters like him or Ronin, we can talk about later, have a lot of burst potential with the idea of having charge, high attacks, and flurry to go with it, with a relatively decent damage. So we now move into the uncommon slot. I'm going to let Jordan start with the uncommons. Jordan, what's your favorite uncommon from Avengers Assemble?
Again, it's going to be very simple. I'm going to go with Ultra Girl. She did me well. She hypersonic speeds. She punches people with heavy objects, and she heals.
Yeah. As a brawler, she's definitely very impressive. I've looked at her a couple times wondering who the hell is this character. Beyond that, I've actually been interested in giving her a good run. Mike, what's your favorite uncommon from the set?
I would say Justin Seyfert. Really interesting little utility character, 40 points within initiative and sentinel keywords. His special attack power gives him the ability to perform a power action, and if he's next to his sentinel, he can give them a move action as a free action, and then they may make a close or range combat attack. So it's adding an action, essentially, another attack from your robot keyword tentpole in that case, or even just something that's reasonably good in a balanced team. So you play it with enough class sentinel, for instance, and you end up on one of the multi-attack clicks, and you're doing 3 attacks per turn. Can be really, really, really potent. I forgot to mention that his trait allows you to choose his sentinel. So it's when you're building your force, choose a friendly character with the robot keyword. The chosen character is Justin Seyffert's sentinel, and that's how that power action comes into play. I was mistaken about the Scarlet Spider thing. I thought it was robot or armor, but no, it is not. It's just the robot keyword, but still really, really fantastic. Not very good on his own. I mean, he's a 40-point character. He's just there for support anyway. The other thing that he does is his special damage powers. Justin Seyfert can use support, but only target characters with the robot keyword, not just his sentinel. So if you're playing on with a team that has more than one robot and it's not his sentinel, you can still heal that other character if you really want to. When he does, the character heals. The character modifies its defense by +2 until your next turn. So not only is he healing that character, but he's making them very, very difficult to hit in most cases, because in many cases you'll be dealing with at least an 18 defense, so you get 20 defense for at least that turn. Yeah. I think that in itself is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
For 40 points.
Excellent. Yeah, Justin Seyfert was definitely one that kind of caught my eye, but I instant love with the Falcon. I've always liked Falcon as a character, kind of a side love of from being a fan of Captain America, and the way that this one works is just so awesome. A full movement, basically a full movement charge that allows you to use Close Combat Expert afterwards is amazing. The only limitation, of course, is that you can't use carry. Okay, I'll take the 12 movement and Close Combat Expert at the end of it. I mean, let's be honest, it's great. And then you get the choice is special defense power, where you can choose either combat reflexes or energy shield after you're done with it. Is awesome. And never forget that you can always throw a Heroes for Hire ATA on this guy if you're holding on to a theme team. So he's actually... He's one of the uncommons that really stood out to me, especially when he comes in at a bargain. All right. There we go. Okay. Mike, your photo just kind of paused on me for a second.
Yeah, you guys paused on me too, so...
But one of our internets. We have a storm also going on the outside, so goodness knows we might lose internet or something. So we're going to try to get through this as best we can. So next we move on to the rare slot. Mike, what's your favorite rare?
I think I maintain my original opinion about this character from the previews, and that's Manifold. I've had a chance to use him. He's very, very flexible support character with the ability to transport three friendly characters regardless of the combat symbols as long as they share a keyword with him. Obviously made for an Avengers team. He is a Secret Warrior as well, so he does have a little bit of flex there keyword-wise. But yeah, just going from phasing teleport, move action that then gives +1 to their defense value for whoever he was carrying. And then on top of that, he can also use TK, so there's a little bit more flexibility. So if you're in a tournament and you come up against a tentpole, rather than carrying everybody out, you may just want to take your key guy and actually throw him out. But also if you push him, he does get pretty good in the middle too. I mean, he ends up with hypersonic speed, precision strike, and I believe that's combat reflexes as well. Oh no, that's ESD, sorry. Energy shield deflection. On his second click, he has prob. too. So, I mean, if you push him to a second click, then he is still a very, very valid utility piece.
Absolutely. Myself sticking. Apparently, the rare slot was full of the really good support because the second I saw him, the second I saw how he functioned, I made friends with Jarvis. I'm a big fan of the ID cards. First of all, if you know me, it's no surprise that I've wanted to make these things part of my team ever since I got announced. And I'm also either going to lose for 2 years straight, or I'm going to be the one that breaks the round table. Because I'm going to use it regardless of anything else. But he counts as 3 characters for the purposes of adding ID cards. Plus, you get 3 free ID cards added to your team. He comes in at 40 points, and he's got a neat defensive power where when Jarvis is adjacent to a friendly character with the Avengers keyword, reduce all damage dealt to him to 1. If Jarvis has taken damage from an opposing character since the beginning of your last turn, he ignores all damage dealt by opposing characters. This power can't be countered. Now, of course, there's going to be things that can get through that. Penetrating damage can get through that because it's reducing the damage. He's only 40 points, but he comes with Perplex, late dial enhancement, and he's got the Avengers and Soldier keyword. I've been particular to Soldier for a long time. Every chance that I get to make a Soldier team, I will make a Soldier team. And of course, I'm looking at a lot. We're looking at a lot of Avengers. So it's once again, it's a keyword like it was a Chaos War that can be very potent as far as theme teams are concerned because there's a lot that the Avengers can do in this game. Period. It's the most. If I was to say if I was to pick a keyword that is the strongest, it would be a tie between Mystical and Avengers, mostly because Avengers is a little bit more versatile in what it can do, whereas Mystical, it's the Mystic team ability, and there's a lot. It's really more potent and offensive as well as having a lot of support. So again, Jarvis is my favorite rare. So we move now to
There's one other thing to point out about him too: the whole indoor aspect of his, because he makes everybody into a stealth buster as long as you're indoors.
Yeah.
As well as avoiding him hindering terrain for movement.
I like to think of that as like sugar
like icing on the cake. Yeah.
On top of this cherry that's got alcohol in it. It's amazing. It's just like he's all that. Plus, he lets you stealth bust indoors. So we move into the super rare slot. Mike, any standouts for you?
Super rares. I still really like Ronin. I really like the ID card that comes with, or that doesn't come with him, but the ID card that corresponds with him because it gives so much flexibility. I mean, that's something that we've been looking at in terms of the round table itself, or projecting regarding the round table. Is it just brings so much flexibility to the game. So you can plan a force like your core force and then alter it on the fly based on what you really need in that situation. The ID card, bringing in anybody. There's 5 names on the actual ID card for Ronin, but there's also that swap out ability directly on his card. So, I just think aside from all of that, his actual core stats for the money, for the amount that you're actually spending, the points that you're spending on him, are excellent. They're really, really, really good. What is it? I don't have it directly up in front of me right at the moment, but I believe it's charge flurry, blades as well, and exploit. I'm not entirely sure. It's just
off the top click. I'm pretty sure there's exploit, charge, and flurry all options in there.
Yeah, charge, flurry, and stealth.
Yeah, and he's treated as a wild card, which is bloody amazing.
Yeah. No, he's pretty incredible. I've pulled fairly well in terms of the SRs, and he's still just right up there for me. I haven't had a chance to really examine Thor in terms of something a little bit more tenty with a little more attack, but I think that Ronin is going to be on many of my teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ronin made my top spot, but since you already talked about it, I'm going to take my second spot to be talked about, and that's going to be Ms. Marvel. This is the bargain figure of the century, if you ask me. She comes in at 66 points, 8 movement with charge, 17 defense with toughness, but she comes also with shape change, celebrity and Inhumans keyword. And then she's got a trait where at the beginning of the turn you can choose giant size and super strength, or tiny and stealth, or Colossal and Close Combat Expert. Miss Marvel has the chosen combat symbol and can use the chosen power until your next turn. And then she's got Shape Change on her third, fifth, and sixth click, where she can use Shape Change, and when she does, on a result of 6, you can heal her of 2 clicks of health. So, of course, those are on clicks where she's taking damage. She's got some mid-dial plasticity. Overall, this is a tight little package for 66 points that can go very far. And I just realized I've taken the focus in the wrong place. And with the Inhumans keyword, there's a lot of options as well, because the Inhumans that we got in Guardians of the Galaxy can use Perplex on each other. And then there's some great characters that share that keyword as well, such as the 50/25 point Lockjaw that came in the Fast Forces. And this is a character that has shape change throughout her entire dial, which, you know, once you combine it with those powers and size combinations that she can choose, you get a ton of options on this character that you don't see at first, and they just they can kind of snowball on your opponent if they're not paying close attention to what this character is fully capable of. Yeah, so as far as silent potential, Miss Marvel at 66 points, I think it's got a lot.
Oh yeah.
So we can now move into the chase slot.
Oh, I don't think Jordan, or did he take off?
Yeah, Jordan's internet seemed to have dropped him out.
Oh, okay.
So
that must have happened when I was frozen.
yeah. So Chase, what's your favorite chase?
I was very happy to have pulled my favorite chase in my first sealed that I played in. It's Rick Jones. As you can see here, I just love the joy that sculpt brings with it. Hey, I'm Rick Jones! It's so good.
Pretty.
And then the pogs on top of it. I mean, the continual cycle of pogs. You start off with Captain America at the beginning of the game. As soon as he dies, you've got Namor. As soon as he dies, you got Blazing Skull, and then you start the whole thing over again. And it's not at the beginning of your turn; it's whenever they die, and so it's immediate. And that can be great because you attack with one guy pushing him. He dies immediately. You have another guy to throw out there if you have more actions to use. I mean, aside from that, if he's based, he has that double power action that he can do, and basically like group incapacitate for all of your opponent's characters. The stats for 75 points, like he's a bargain, really. The one drawback I think is that he doesn't have a movement attack, but he's really not meant for that. He's meant to TK guys out and kind of be sitting in the background, especially since he has 10 range. So you can just shoot at people from really, really far back. He's got 10 range with 3 bolts. Throw some energy explosion on him. Holy crap! You know,
and
11 attack at 75 points, great.
Yeah, and that special power comes with Psychic Blast as well as telekinesis. So adding that to there is a very, very awesome combination. Myself, if I was to choose one, it's one I still haven't got my hands on, but I've liked looking at this figure every time I see pictures of it, and I love his comic book. It is the Hulk. The Hulk based on the comic book from The End. It's very cool. The Hulk's kind of like the last person on Earth idea, and he just refuses to die. This is one of those guys. He starts with, like, in the 325 point version, or like, let's talk like flat out. You're never going to see me use this guy on a hyper meta, hyper competitive team, but in my fun table games where I can use a 325 point figure with 11 movement, full movement charge. With giant size, I'm going to use him a lot. He's got a lot of heal potential too with those Titan clicks. And he's got that stop click on his last click where he can use invulnerability, and if he has no action tokens, he can use regeneration. When this click is revealed, stop turning the dial, remove a Titan token from this card. Whenever he would take damage, remove a Titan token from this card instead. Hulk can't place additional Titan tokens on this card. This power can't be ignored. So as you're going through the game with this character, you are dealing damage with him, hopefully. And you're collecting Titan tokens, then you get to the end, and then you have a stay of execution with those Titan tokens. And then once you're past that, he's got intermittent clicks of steel energy that goes with his super strength that he's traded. And he can absolutely punish anybody silly enough to be within 2 squares of him. So overall, what's your opinion of the Avengers Assemble set, Mike?
I like it. I'm originally a Marvel guy, and but I never really liked the Avengers comics so much. I really liked the Ultimates when it came out, which was the alternate universe version of the Avengers that introduced the Black Nick Fury, for instance, that was modeled after Sam Jackson, and that's probably why he got to be Nick Fury in the films. The set itself, I don't find that it has the same kind of power creep as the Trinity War set that just came out or came out a little while ago, the last major DC set. I found that the movie set was more powerful than the main set. There's a lot of really cool utility, and there's a lot of like unclicked characters that they've revealed, but a lot of really unknown, and I didn't feel that as much like in the non-meta sense as connected to the characters as I would with, for instance, Trinity War. Really cool to get the Rick Jones out of it.
I want to know how long that's going to last.
As soon as I pulled it, I was like, Rick Jones, bitch! The chases themselves, I'm not that excited about them. I ended up selling one of the chases that I pulled, and I don't normally do that. I've been completing sets lately, and I did complete Trinity War, and obviously the movie set, because that was really, really easy to do, other than the Target stuff. But yeah, no, this set, I feel like it's lacking in some respect. I'd still like it as a set. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff. It's a great introduction for the ID cards. Totally new game element. And I'm really looking forward to the new ones that come out with the organized play set, Age of Ultron, that's coming up very, very soon. Along with the participation prize, which is the roundtable resource that we were just talking about. The thing I am completing with the set is the ID cards. So I have the 3 that were put out from the ConLE stuff so far.
Yep.
I'm sure there's going to be more. There actually, if you go into the WizKids event system, you fill out you put in the codes for the achievements. It does have a full list there, so you can see which ConLE ones will be released later. But yeah, no, I mean, that's pretty much my long-winded answer surrounding this set. I'm a little disappointed, but honestly, a lot of really cool generics, things like that. Just very playable, more swarmy, less tenty.
Yes. That is an observation I made. There's a lot of the initiative characters and new Warriors characters. All of those, of course, will be small pointed characters that they kind of fit into their own little themes, if you will. But they don't really. I found that this set worked really well if you include it with elements from other sets. There will be some figures here and there that actually kind of fit into other ideas or complete certain puzzles. What might be missing in the current Inhumans builds, where you get the potential with her, Lockjaw, and a couple other things like Alpha Primitives even to really get in there and brawl with the Inhumans, especially with the Perplex potential on that. And then you got characters, like the new Captain America and the super rare slot, who's going to be leadershiping all day, every day with other Avengers.
Right.
And I think this is one of those things like the Chaos War set was. It's a big bump to the Avengers keyword again. It brings it back into the limelight because there was some floating Avengers out there that were good, and now the Avengers are great again once you combine them with the movie set. So like you were saying, the set on its own, standing on its own, is not as impressive until you include it into the greater game. This is one of those sets that really fit in. As far as like,
I was going to say that this is really, sorry to interrupt you, but this is really a set for you because you like to play Swarm. Like, you're a big Swarm player, and being true Canadian, apparently that's our thing. We tend to like to play a lot of Swarm. I'm more of a Tenty kind of guy, or balanced, but that's probably because of my lack of experience. It takes a more I guess a more experienced pilot to run a Swarm team more elegantly, because there's a lot less room for error, and there's a lot more errors that can be made. And Jason, this is your set.
Yeah, the number of small, like there's a lot of characters in the small end that I've really like. I already instantly attached myself to Jarvis. Vale is another one I've kind of been looking at very closely with her smoke cloud damaging ability. When you're playing a swarm, like you said, I do like swarms, and when you're playing a swarm, the less you have to roll the dice, the better off you are, because oftentimes when you have a lot of characters, you don't have a lot of high attacks to go with it. So you got to be very careful about when you're making those attacks or how you're making those attacks, or make them more shocking. Shock the monkey, if you will, because if you go look at my nationals team in the games I was playing, I did play a team with 4 characters in a 300-point team, and I was making effective use of PD enhancement and all kinds of adjacency abilities, as well as eating rings, in order to take those 4 pretty well. I mean, Banshee's great, but those other 3 kind of good characters and making them even better.
Yeah, pumping up their stats so that you could actually hit. Yeah.
So if I was to talk, I guess I could talk about Swarm as an episode of Metafix, but it's not. It has never been easy in Heroclix to. It's not like Warhammer where if you play an Orc and Goblin army, you're throwing a handful of dice and hoping for the best. You don't have that kind of advantage in Heroclix, and you really gotta make it work hard for it to work at all.
Right.
Yeah. So now we enter preview territory. So I'm gonna get rid of my face and.
We didn't talk about primes.
Oh, primes, correct. Yep. All right, let's talk about primes before we finish off with Avengers Assemble. So 4 primes. Which one really stands out for you?
I really like 3D Man. I've been raving about it for a while. As soon as it was previewed as well, I just went kind of nuts over it. Just really incredible stats and flexibility within those stats with very little penalty. It feels to me almost like Johnny Quick from the Justice League set. But without the guaranteed damage, and like damage to self by using the perplex, because he perplexed 3 times, and once in damage and twice in attack, or wherever you want. I mean, if you're shy, if you're coming, he has Cypersonic, so if you're coming up against somebody who has plasticity, well, throw 2 of them into your range, so you don't have to deal with that plasticity at all. It's just such a flexible, interesting piece. What is he? 90 points? Like, yeah, I'm just going offhand here. I actually traded for one before I got my case, and then I got another one. So I currently have one for trade, but it's fantastic. I pulled him and Power Princess, and they're both really good. I mean, in terms of just like my natural style, probably Ragnarok is really interesting. But yeah, I have to stick with 3D Man. He's really fantastic. Great overall character. Yeah. What did you think?
Myself, as far as the primes go, I've learned a little lesson in Heroclix many years ago. If you don't like the character when it's beating the crap out of you, it's because it's good. And I discovered that with Power Princess, because that girl is hard to take down. As I mentioned, I was playing a game with Amber, and I was using the new Warriors, and Amber was using the Exiles. Amber, big Exiles fan, I had to deal with that Power Princess, and that wasn't an easy task in any way, shape, or form. 450 points in the current standing of what 150 points gets you. Power Princess is slightly above that. So she's very potent character as far as a brawler is concerned. But, add that to the fact that she's also, she's also Squadron Supreme. So now she's a prime that's not worrying necessarily about the prime rule because of the Squadron Supreme ATA, which is a very cool ATA, don't get me wrong. And it would be nice to see a smaller point squadron member show up in Nick Fury, like a Nighthawk, who fits into a small value, right? Like a decent team that actually might be very competitive in a 300-point range. As far as the primes are concerned, Power Princess stood out to me. I didn't pull Ragnarok. It's the only of the primes I didn't pull in my 2 cases. We ended up pulling 2 Starbrands. Starbrand is one of those characters that is going to surprise people when he hits the board, especially when he does things like explode all over the place. He's got a quake that is pretty much like an explosion. He's got explosions when he dies. I think he was misnamed as Starbrand. He should just be called Mr. Explosion Man.
Mr. Explodey.
Yeah, Explosion Man. That's what the game was. That's
the technical term.
Yeah, I'm nicknaming him Splosion Man because he kind of seemed neat. I always like Prime. Primes are always neat because they're that one figure that you have to choose one if you're going to use a Prime on your team, but they always do stand out as very, very good for their points in I'd say about 90% of the cases. There's a few that don't stand out as good for their point value, but again, it's just primes are neat. That's my take on it. So let's start talking preview territory. Let's start with the official preview because WizKids was nice enough to give us our first taste of Age of Ultron, and a lady that me and Amber are very excited to see, the queen, if you will, of breaking the fourth wall, the She-Hulk. Mike, I'm going to just describe it, and then you get first dibs on talking about it.
Sure,
so,
yeah.
You got a fantastic set of keywords with Avengers, Fantastic Four, Heroes for Hire, Lady Liberators, and S.H.I.E.L.D. A treat, if She-Hulk isn't part of a theme team, the first time you wouldn't win the dice roll for first player, you may roll again and add +1 to the result. And then after that, she's got a white movement power. She can use Charge and Flurry. White damage power when she can use Willpower. When she's adjacent to a character that can use Perplex, she can use Perplex until your next turn. Now, I want to point out that that's not friendly necessarily. It could be any character with Perplex. And then she comes in at either 130 or 75. 130 gets you 2 clicks with Invincible and 17 defense extra, as well as 4 damage on the first 2 clicks, and that's starting movement power. And then she, on her 75 point, she's a really good brawler still for 75 points.
Oh, yeah.
To kind of round that out, and the standard Avengers team ability. Mike, what do you think of She-Hulk?
Well, she's not all that different at the 75-point level. Like just looking at her starting stats even. I really like the flavor text on the card. File for change menu and relax. It's just a Heroclix game. She's a cheerleader. Yeah. She's meant to be there to make sure that you win initiative and and go forward and wreck face. The Charge Flurry is great, always great, right off the top. I mean, it looks like this will be a great piece to pull in Sealed. I think I would probably play her at 75 personally, just because the difference. I think for 130 points, her stats might be a little bit low on the top end, but that's supposed to be offset by the double Perplex essentially, because she gains Perplex by being next to a Perplexer.
Yep.
And that way, you can actually pump it up to a 12, for instance, for her attack value. Or once again, you could increase her range to avoid a plasticity-based character, etc. But yeah, I mean, I think the sculpt is fantastic. Just kind of funny, very humorous. Lots and lots of keywords to play with. Can fit her into many, many different theme teams, but yeah, you don't really have to. They've made it so that you can play the broken meta teams with her if you really, really want to. And I like that aspect because, for instance, against the Lydia teams that are out there right now, you lose initiative and you lose, a key part of your resource in many, many cases. For instance, any of the batteries lose most of their functionality. So yeah, she allows you to at least have a second crack at it, and then even increase your initiative by 1. So yeah, great.
Yeah. I myself, I share a lot of the same opinions as far. She's going to be, because Age of Ultron is going to be sealed, we got to kind of take that into account. Yeah. And sitting uncommon slot, it's where she really stands in the fact that she's easily pullable. She's easily playable at both point values, depending on what you need for your team at the time. And Sealed is really known for not having, theme teams. So she will make that, round that out for you, give you that chance, especially for that month. Depending on what map each month is being used each month, she can really kind of make or break how your team functions with that ability to re-roll that. But of course, Age of Ultron is bound to have a ton of Avengers as well. So I'm pretty sure Age of Ultron will be a pretty safe, keyword friendly set for her as far as the sealed goes.
You know what I was disappointed with the set we were just talking about, our favorites and the latest, the Avengers Assemble set. I was disappointed that there wasn't a Spider-Man. I don't know. That was just me. I was hoping for another Spider-Man, even though we did have Amazing Spider-Man just over, I guess, about 2 years ago now. But
Well, Amazing Spider-Man is about to get phased out, and if Heroclix patterns are anything to be noticed, we're in an Avengers time right now. Next is a Spider-Man time, and then an X-Men time. So don't be too worried about not having Spider-Man right now.
yeah.
Coming back. I wouldn't worry about that. So next up, we have a bunch of leaked images from the Ant-Man collector set, or the Hank Pym collector set. I don't know how you want to refer to it. But
Collector's box set or something.
yeah, it's a big old box of Hank Pym. So it's like a drunk in a box.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll take a quick look at the cards where necessary, take a look at the dials, and then go from there. I want to put out a special shout out to the guy that shared this on the Heroclix subreddit. That was a Solo Baggins, SOELO Baggins on the Reddit/r/Heroclix for sharing this with us. So let's take a quick gander here at Goliath. His dial is not really surprising. Is what you see is what you get as far as colors are concerned.
Yeah.
He's a giant. And what you're going to notice, I've had a chance to take a quick glance at these beforehand, and I'll give you a heads up right now. Most of these characters come in at 2-point values, 100 or 50 points. And we'll explain all that in a couple seconds as we get to this Goliath card. Now, all the Ant-Mans have this, or the Hank Pyms have this morph ability. Many identities. Give Goliath a move or close combat action that deals no pushing damage. After action is resolved, replace him with any character with this trait on the same click number. If this character started on its 50-point starting line, the character it is replaced with can't be healed past its 50-point start line, even if this ability is lost.
Yeah. No surprise there.
Yeah. You have the giant ant ability. When this character is brought into the game through a morph ability, you may replace an adjacent ant swarm bystander token with a giant ant bystander token. Pym Goggles. When this character is the target of a ranged combat attack, he can use probability control and super senses. So we take a look at the dial again just to kind of wrap all that up. Most of what he's got is in his traits, and then he's got a kind of a mediocre dial. In my opinion. What do you think? I'll get your opinion first, sir, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at all of these, and none of them are particularly standout. I love bystanders, so it's great to have the ants become giant ants when you switch them out, so it adds that layer to the morph itself. But there are basically no white powers, or not white powers. That's a terrible way to put it. Special powers on the white square on the dial.
Yeah.
Pretty much on any of them, and so I don't know. My opinion on it. I think it's really great for beginners. Great for new players coming in, because it allows you to deal with the basic powers, the pack card essentially, and learn how to use them in a fairly friendly environment. It adds that little layer of complexity with the morph, which is not a new mechanic by any means. And moving around little ant bystanders, which are really, really cool. This one in particular, I mean, there's nothing special really. It just looks like a standard click.
Yeah, and what makes me a little sad about it is that this is the new dial from the new figure. All these characters are new dials, old models, but this is a new model and it's kind of sad that it's kind of this disappointing. To me, but I can see myself playing the Sandman a lot at the 50-point value, where I'll be switching in and out of things. I don't think this is going to be one of the ones I'm going to switch to very often, though. At 50 points.
I mean, it's neat for tie-up because it's got the plasticity and I mean, the stats aren't terrible at 50 points.
No,
they're not bad at all. Plasticity, giant reach, plus close combat expert, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, so you're able to possibly do some damage that way on while wrapping up people. So somebody bases you or actually is coming close to you, you can switch out to this guy and snare them. But I don't know, nothing that special though.
So we move on to the next incarnation, and that is Ant-Man. So we'll actually take a look at his card first.
I think he squished. I think that one got bent over.
And I think I just closed the picture.
You closed the picture? Nice. Well done.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing for a second as I fix that because I emailed these to myself, and nobody gets to look at the Married with Clicks email.
Full of the hate.
There it is. All right. Open in a new tab. All right. Let's try this again without the unprofessionalism. There we go. All right. Let's try this again. All right. Now the amateur hour is done here. Ant-Man, he's got his morph ability once again. Same as the last one, except with the word Ant-Man on it. When this character is brought in with morph, he can bring an ant swarm bystander. When an opposing character adjacent to a friendly ant swarm is moved or placed, after action is resolved, you may place an ant swarm adjacent to that character. So effectively turning all the ant swarms into an obnoxious little Despotellis type character. And I want to point out that this Ant-Man actually, where the other one replaces an ant swarm with a giant ant, this just brings an ant swarm into the game. Now, I don't know how
you can build more and more of them with this particular, like if you were to morph a bunch of times in the game, you'd be able to increase the number of bystanders therein, and then switch over to Goliath, for instance, and you'd have a bunch of giant ants.
And I start to drool at this idea of a swarm of swarm ants. Now this Ant-Man also comes with a special defense power.
He does have one special power, yes.
Yeah. He can use combat reflexes and toughness. Give him a free action and KO up to 3 adjacent friendly ant swarms. Heal Ant-Man of 1 damage for each one KO'd.
That's interesting.
So if you've been morphing in a fair bit throughout the game, ant swarms, even 1 or 2 ant swarms adjacent to him, he eats them effectively and gains some clicks. 1 or 2 clicks can really make or break a game.
It's huge.
Yeah, and let's see where he gets at. He gets at on every single click of the 50-point dial. So if you're actually on the first click going in past the blue, if you started at 100 points, you go 1, 2, you go here, you heal back 3. You can go from this dial here, the first click that he has that power, right back to the first click of the dial. Or you can just keep him alive at the 50-point dial.
Yeah.
That's kind of my observation on that. And at the 50-point, is that Earthbound he has on the next 2 clicks? Oh, that's
the final 2 clicks is Earthbound.
Yeah, so he loses his tiny size as a result of that, but he gains shape change for those 2 clicks, which is cool. And he doesn't have Indomitable. So, yeah, the only thing he's really losing is this tiny size. So he's not as good at range as he started out with on the first click. But I think this is going to be that one you morph into to start building an ant swarm, or that you morph into knowing full well that you're about to heal up.
Yeah.
So that's the way I see this one. Your thoughts, Mike?
I echo your thoughts on it. I mean, still very basic. But, yeah, I mean, being able to move around. I mean, I think about it in terms of how many turns you have in a game, right? And you're not going to have that many turns to be able to generate the swarm. Right. So unless you're bringing in somebody like Black Talon to possess him, or to not possess him, but mind control him and get him to move and make more as you go, which is an idea, then you're not going to end up with a huge swarm to be able to use. It's a neat idea, but I feel like it's very slow ramp up.
Yeah. All right. So we move next. We have another Ant-Man, but this time even smaller. We got yet another puck to add to the game. Pretty soon, I'm pretty sure we're just going to be playing with dials.
That's a 20 puck.
But yes, at 100 points, you get a 20 defense, tiny size character. So if you're shooting this guy somehow because he's got stealth, he's actually got a 21 defense. That comes with outwit, improved movement, which I believe is ignore hindering. Let me just double check. Yeah, ignore hindering. What you see is what you get on the dial, so there's not much to talk about as far as the dial is concerned. 3 clicks straight with super senses, doesn't lose his tiny size to Earthbound or anything like that. Poison on 2 of these clicks is pretty good. Comboed with outwit is always a nice combination. And then second, outwit, and then of course the last click he's got outwit and incapacitate, which is
a little prob littered in there too, and you've got sidestep with the poison in 2 of the cases anyway.
Mm-hmm. Sidestep poison is a very, very potent combination. And then, now one of the things that's really cool about the morph, I don't think I discussed, is that you can move or make a close combat action, and you take no pushing for this. So whenever you're making an attack or moving with this character, morph him, right? Always morph him so that you're never taking pushing damage with him to keep him going.
Yeah.
And then, his cover you with, like, he brings in ant swarms like the other Ant-Man. Cover you in ants. When an opposing character targets a friendly ant swarm with an attack and misses, deal 1 penetrating damage to each opposing character adjacent to that ant swarm that didn't attack. I don't know how many situations that's actually going to come up in, but it could be pretty obnoxious when you look at the fact that it's penetrating damage when somebody else tries to take a shot at those ants.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, what do we have a shot of the actual ant pogs? I know that they were previewed as well.
I do have that picture loaded up. Just give me a sec.
This might be a good opportunity to talk about the actual ant pogs because.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop the screen share again for a second because I got to for it. I knew I accidentally closed something.
Yeah, because the ant pogs themselves, I think in the swarm case, I think that they're tiny size, and so they're going to be harder to hit as well. And but also, I mean, even from up close, when he's using, he's got prob on that dial there too.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to hit those ants and he probs you into, crit miss or just a miss in general, you're going to take up to 2 penetrating damage in that case.
So it doesn't look like they're tiny,
no,
but do have super senses, which turns a hit into a miss.
Yes, that is true. That is true.
I believe Amber is an evaded attack a miss. Yes, she's nodding yes. So all of a sudden, and these things come with poison too, so they could be very frustrating if they start to pile up.
Sidestep poison.
Sidestep poison. And it's funny because their sidestep is actually 2/3 of their normal movement already.
Yeah, that's funny. So with 3, and then go another 2.
Yeah. So combo in the fact that it's going to take you a little bit of work to hit these guys, and if you miss them, you're going to run into a problem. Assuming of course that you've been based by ant swarms. So we move in next to Yellow Jacket, who's actually this isn't a resculpt because I thought this was gonna be a resculpt of what we had already in Secret Invasion, but now that I've gotten a good look at it, this is actually a more dynamic posed. He's not just standing there waiting for the bus; he's looking like he's going to tackle the bus.
Bleeding for the bus, yeah.
Like he's about to put his shoulder into it. Now, I only kept the front part of the card because that's the only thing with anything special. Again, we got another just a colorful dial.
Yeah.
Now, this one has Psychic Blast on a couple clicks, especially on the 100-point one that starts with Running Shot and Psychic Blast and 11 attack.
Yeah.
Which is always a solid combination of things to have. So, again, he has the many identities he can morph in. He's got the Ant Swarm that he brings in when he gets morphed in. And then he gives friendly ant swarms exploit weakness. Now, the ant swarms themselves, 9 attack, 1 damage, not such a bad thing. But when this 1 damage starts becoming penetrating damage, things can start to get a little bit intense.
Yeah. Now you can bypass him and just go to Goliath, for instance, for a turn, and Giant Ants, right? So the Giant Ants already have exploit, and they're better.
Yeah, the Giant Ants already have exploit weakness, so and I think this only gives it to the ant swarm. Ant swarms can use exploit weakness, so
yeah,
yeah. But overall, like he himself, this is probably the most effective attacker of the Hank Pyms.
Right.
That also comes with making ant swarms a little bit more threatening with exploit weakness. So again, these are all six or 3 click dials. He's decent enough at 50 points. I mean, for 50 points, a character with 10 attack and Psychic Blast with Force Blast is a pretty good combination when you think about the ability to do knockback with that with the right characters. So, I don't know. Do you have anything to add on to that?
I guess if you're into that kind of thing, I like the move and attack. Obviously, 8, 11, 17 with ESD is good. I mean, it's solid at 100 points right there. But it is 100 points, and with no special stuff, just kind of not bad.
Yeah. See, my eye is perpetually on the lower point, the 50 point, where I'm more likely to just listen into an Avengers team.
It's solid for 50 points. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah. And he's got energy explosion in there at places with 2 targets, and multi-damage energy explosion is always good times.
Well, I wonder if you would be able to. This is just me thinking on the fly. I wonder if you could bring in him or any of these guys using the Ant-Man card, ID card, and then morph him and bring an Ant Swarm and leave the Ant Swarm behind.
The ID card characters, when they're brought in, can't be replaced. It's one of the rules of ID cards.
Okay. All right. Well, it was just a neat idea.
Yeah, I think they knew about this guy specifically when they planned that.
Right.
So next is the reason that this is a more expensive collector's kit, and it's the Giant Man. He is a 2x2 Colossal, playable at 3 different point values, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 4 different point values. You can play him at 300, you can play him at 200, or you can play him at 100 or 50. His morph only occurs on the 100 or the 50 point starting line. He brings in a giant ant, kind of like Goliath does. And now he's traded as a Colossal. He's traded with the ability to use Giant Reach, which gives him, as from his 2x2 base, a lot of reach, a lot of square space that you can gain. When you think about the fact that how big the base is on this character already. And then he's got a special power in there, which I, of course, for some reason, have lost that part of the card to. Amateur hour, Jason. Amateur hour.
Yeah, well, he's got a couple different special powers, right?
Yes, he's actually got 2. One on his attack and one on his damage, which I will pull up right now. You know what? I thought I was being all smart by taking out the cards that we didn't need, and then, here I am going to hunt them back down.
All right, dude.
All right. So this is the other side of the card that we didn't have there.
Brilliant on the battlefield.
He can use Flurry and Outwit. If the target of his Outwit takes damage this turn, he may use Outwit a second time as a free action. That's pretty intense if you think about the fact that you outwitted to get rid of his defense power, somebody else attacks, and then he gains a new defense power. Now you outwit that defense power with this guy.
Dial for a second just so we can see what point values it's on.
Yeah, and I went and opened the email that I wasn't supposed
to. Way to go.
Yeah. Well, here's the neat thing. That power is on every point value. But the 50 point value, you're not getting it until you've taken 1 damage.
Right. So it's good to play him at 100 then. In this case, if you really want to use it with the Omega Drive, for instance.
Yes, absolutely. Or if you want to play him at 300, go nuts because you have it. The Iron Man, or here it is, the Giant Man meta, 300 points, just too much.
Remember, Giant Man is the best there is.
Absolutely, he is the man behind it all. And then he's got his special damage power, which I believe only comes in on. Yeah, it only comes in at the 300 or 200 point value.
Yeah. It's only up to 200 too.
Yeah. He can use Perplex and Quake. When he uses Quake, if his attack total is at least 2 or greater than the target's defense value, give the hit target an action token, and it can't make ranged combat attacks during its next turn, called Flatten You Villains.
Nice.
So basically he's squishing people and saying, no, you can't do anything next turn.
That's actually pretty awesome.
I have the imagery of that just in my head now, and it's brilliant.
I can see myself using Theme Prob just to try and get that too.
Yep.
So we look at the dials themselves. So the 100 point, of course, comes in at 6 clicks. With his entire last 4 clicks all have Empower, which makes him a really good team player. I believe that's toughness on the 50-point dial. The 100-point dial comes in with that special power. And Invincible, it looks like, for his defense power, which is pretty good on a 100-point character. It could be pretty obnoxious at the right amount of time. He comes in with Indomitable on his own, so he might be willing to stick it out there for a bit in the right situation.
Oh, yeah.
And then, I mean, at 200 points, I can see some playability there. I don't see the investment myself. It's there. I'm not going to be spending it on him.
No.
No. But he's playable at 200. 300, you're looking at a bit of a risk. Make sure it's a fun game if you're playing him at 300 points because it's a very risky game on that case. So we'll move now to the Wasp version of Ant-Man. Now, his Ant ability is Ant Swarms can use Stealth and Flight and modify their speed values by 3. So that actually doubles their movement and gives them Flight and Stealth.
Yeah.
Which is... Go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah. So let's take a look at Ant Swarms right there. So 6 movement with Flight and Stealth and Sidestep. It's a potential 8 movement out of these guys in a single turn. Not caring much for terrain for the most part, which, that's Flight. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's very cool.
And here we go, another colorful
That's
dial.
how flying works.
Is that how that works?
That's how the flying works. Yeah.
What's also
I didn't know that there was a Henry Pym or Hank Pym version of the Wasp before seeing this.
Yeah. He's kind of like it's right there. Janet died for us, and now we honor her memory. And one of the 8 times that this character has probably died, he went in her honor and named himself Wasp. He ignores hindering for a line of fire, which makes him, I think, Stealth Buster, a step above Yellow Jacket in that case, because once you flip to this guy's dial, which is not that one, it's this one, he's a little bit more steady on the stats. I mean, it's not as high attack to start on his top dial, but it's a more consistent 10 until the last 2 clicks where he has 9. He flips between Energy Explosion and Blades, but Energy Explosion with 2 targets is a good thing. Empower on a couple clicks. Now, a 50-point.
I like the leadership for the Ant Swarms.
That's where I was going to go. Is a 50-point character with leadership initially not something that really stands out, but then you add in the fact that you can give it to the Ant Swarms. That's pretty cool. Now, another thing I want to point out about the Ant Swarms as well is we already discussed they're not tiny. Oh wait, no, you're giving them the flight ability. I'm sorry. Shh. Jason's bad at Heroclix. But no, leadership for the Ant Swarms, giving them the extra attack, extra movements, extra whatever they need to get to where they're going is always amazing. And even if you're not even nearby, the extra action throughout the turn, once all these ants start swarming, can be really
really good. Yeah. And, regen on the end of the dial. Nice. Yeah.
Nobody's ever going to complain about a chance at bringing that character back to life.
Because soak damage very well, but he's not bad.
Yeah. I mean, the 50-point, again, what I expect out of 50 points in 3 clicks is, I understand is going to be different, but he's a little bit, he's got sidestep with his range ability to attack. So, that in combination with what he has versus the Yellow Jacket at 50 points, he's a different type of option, than Yellow Jacket is.
Yeah.
So now we move. I'm sorry, was there anything else you want to add to this character before I move on?
No, we're good. Don't worry, keep going. Ant-Man. So, now we're on scientist Hank Pym.
Yep. Hank Pym himself. Let's talk about what's on there.
The man behind the particles.
The man behind the particles themselves. So, of course, he's got the morph ability, and he brings in Ant Swarms. Now, he gives Ant Swarms Empower. If you start getting a lot of swarming going on with these guys and you got a lot of ants near each other, they all of a sudden become 3 damage with a 9 attack if this guy's on the board.
Yeah.
That's pretty potent if you ask me.
Yeah, it can be very, very good.
I want to also point out is there's nothing stopping me, it looks like, from playing, say, a 50-point Yellow Jacket and the 50-point Hank Pym on the same team. So when I got Hank Pym giving them Empower, and then Yellow Jacket giving them Exploit Weakness on the same team, you've got a mess. A very, very messy potential for some awesome penetrating damage.
Penetrating.
Yeah. And, of course, he's got a special attack power that gives him Blades, Claws, and Fangs and Exploit Weakness on a dial that gives it to him on every click that's not the starting click of that dial. The
starting click and for both values is really nice.
Yeah, considering you get Sidestep and Telekinesis. Now, what I also like about the 50-point value is that it comes with Mastermind, which doesn't seem great at first. Add in the Ant Swarms. And Ant Swarms are less points, or 0 points, and they're less points than 50 points.
Yeah, no, you're just like deferring all of your damage to something that costs nothing.
Exactly, and it's a 0 loss situation. I don't see anything wrong with that, to be brutally honest. It's just a shame that you can't morph in conjunction with the Telekinesis, because the Telekinesis requires a power action, and the morph requires either a move or a close combat action.
Right.
So that would be neat to be able to morph in TK and not push, but you're kind of playing the cards on this one. So you're more likely to start with a TK and then move out to push, or move out to not push and get some more Ant Swarms on the board. Yeah. So that was the Hank Pym collector set. Most likely to help with the advertising of the movie. And of course, all these Hank Pyms are going to work with the Hank Pym ID card that's going to be coming with the classic Avengers starter kit, which although it has been leaked, we just don't have the time to slip it in this week. So we're probably going to talk about it more in depth.
Or are you talking about the Ant-Man one? The Con LE? Because it's listed. There's an Ant-Man in the Con LE section as well. Like if
I believe it's actually Giant Man in the classic starter. It's listed somewhere under the Age of Ultron set.
Right. But as long as the real name matches, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that's really the important part, is the real name, because there's a lot of futzing around you can really do with these ID cards to make some really funny stuff happen. There was this discovery yesterday. The Sersi, S-E-R-S-I character actually has a real name of the proper spelling of the character Circe, C-I-R-C-E, which is the real name of a character in the Arkham Asylum set from Golden Age. As well, the Ares Khan can bring in the Legacy Ares from DC, or he can bring in, I think there was another Ares in DC 75th. I think you had?
Just not in Modern. You can't use them. You can't bring in Golden into Modern. Some people had some weird qualms about that and were trying to use that, but there was precedent. I forget exactly what it was, but yeah, you're not allowed to do that. Yeah,
there's a WS listing where it says even your sideline has to follow the age that you're playing the tournament in. Yeah. As I am currently in the background trying to hunt down the forget it. We know there's
it's not possible. Yeah, just don't do it.
And I'm not really gonna hunt much further for it. But it's time to move on to fan questions. Not as many this week as we've been getting the last couple of weeks, but I think that was all on the back of of the Avengers Assemble excitement. So everybody's kind of speculating, talking about it. But we do have a question here, starting with Matt Thomas. Super Rare Mortis, good or not good? Meta potential. Mike, you want to take this one first, or?
I don't think he's worth the points. I love the prop stop that he does. I unfortunately haven't pulled one. It's one of the few super rares I don't have. But I'd love to play with him in a home game or at a casual tournament. But I honestly don't think it's good enough to use otherwise. Because not all teams that you face in meta have prop. Most of them do.
Yeah.
But that's really the only major thing that he brings that can't be gotten cheaper and elsewhere. Yeah. So in that case, I don't think that he's worth using in the meta, as it were. What do you think, Jason?
Myself, if he was a smaller point character that did a little bit less but also had that ability, I'd be more likely to play him.
That would be really cool.
Like you said, he's more than 50% of a 300 point build. So already you've got a character who's taking up more than 50% of your build that you've got to put work into. Now he could potentially be used with the green power battery to give him willpower, which is nice to bump up that willpower. But then he's got to become the focal point of your team. And I don't like the idea of him being a focal point of the team because he just doesn't bring it as hard as, say, like a character who's at the same point value like an Iron Man that's out there at 150, 125 points. There's Iron Mans you can play that can just stomp the ground with him without needing probability control.
No, exactly.
And his defense power is it's one pink power away from just having a bad day.
Yeah.
So if you brought more improved targeting, more ability to dodge characters like that, I'd be more likely to use him. But there's too much. It just stomps on his face.
My pulse wave would eat him.
Yeah. A lot of pulse waves would eat a lot of characters. So.
Yeah, but I just mean like for 160 points. Is it 160?
He's 160.
Yeah, it's just he's too easy to kill.
So does he have potential? Probably. Is it going to take you some work? Yes. Is it going to take you a ton of work to make him usable? You're not going to see me pop him on a map anytime soon. But if you found some kind of awesome tech that can make him work, by all means, I suggest that you give it a test, make it work, force it out if you can, and then make somebody's day very terrible. Because that's one of those things is if at first glance you can say a character isn't going to work, but then sometimes somebody will find a thing that happens. At first glance, I didn't think either Doctor Strange or the Felix Faust really stood out, and then I played against both of them. And it was just like, wait, hold on. What just happened?
They're really good. Yeah.
And neither of them stood out on their own. It was the fact that the combination of what they did just started to snowball into some of the worst situations ever. It was like I think I've described it several times as I was a spectator into a game I was playing.
It's so random. Like those guys, you can't really plan for them.
Yeah.
Like they do so many different things that you just have to build a strong team and hope for the best.
Yeah. And like the two of them themselves, you can't plan for what's going to happen with them, and everything they does is good, and almost nothing can stop them. So I wish there was more that I could do in planning that. And it's like I said. So when I say that Immortus isn't one that comes to mind, there might be something with Immortus that I haven't factored in yet that has potential. Some people have already started talking about using the 100-point Pandora from the not from the Flash set, but from the actual
Connex one, right?
Yeah, using the con exclusive Pandora with Immortus to give them, if they use probability control, they take a token and a penetrating or unavoidable damage, not sure which. But you're planning on your opponent having probability control.
Yeah, and once again, most meta level teams will have prob on it, but they don't have to use it necessarily. You'll still be fighting against people who have 12 attack. And half the time pulse wave, half the time, other things that are actually going to get past it.
And you know what? One Canadian Nationals and American Nationals didn't have probability control until late dial on the Book of Skulls.
It's true.
So there's a thought for you. A lot of people are considering that team, and I have to stress this enough. That team is good. The pilot is better. You know what I mean? It's not just that team that's on its own kind of standing out. Kenny himself is the guy behind that team. And that team hasn't shown up in great abundance. Like when we were at Canadian Nationals, there was a somewhat copy of it with the Indigo battery.
It plays fairly well.
It placed in the top 8, but then, it didn't do everything that Kenny's team did. And it showed. And Kenny took the similar team and, using the tools that he had and took that to the top twice, right? So, but before we go further into that, let's move on to the next question. And I think Chris has asked questions before, so I'm going to probably butcher your last name again. And anytime I do that. Send me a message on our Facebook page and let me know how to pronounce it. Chris Probanik is asking, do you think that WizKids is extending the cutoff date until after Worlds to cut entities? I'm going to go and say no. The reason they're not doing this is to maintain consistency. Every cut every year has been in July. And by keeping it in July and moving Worlds, all they do is they take 1 year and they say it's a really big meta, and then next year it kind of equalizes itself when we get into the new pattern, and this is going to be the pattern that we see. I don't think that you're going to see entities get cut that fast. Entities came out last
another year anyway. Yeah.
You got another year of entities to go. And we might be seeing a pattern where a lot of sets see 3 Worlds before the next cut. And this also gives Wolverine and the X-Men its second appearance at Worlds, because it came out, the year it came out during or just slightly after Worlds. And then, so they got the next year's Worlds, and then they're going to have this year's Worlds. And then I keep saying it, Wolverine and the X-Men's the bubble. Either Wolverine and the X-Men is gone, and it's the newest set gone, or it's the oldest set legal. Do you agree with that, Mike? Or
no, I do entirely. I mean, we've talked at length about this, and the fact that it's July 1st, right, is the cutoff this year. So we'll see it at our we'll have everything until after provincials on the 27th here. Everywhere actually, states and provincials are all the same weekend. And then we'll have the major cuts. So we won't really know exactly what gets cut off until that point. Yeah, but we will have access to everything, like the full shebang, with the incredible amount of combinations that are out there until then.
And this is the year, Scott Lovelady, you can do it. Take the double Iron Man, take that split lip, take that Book of Skulls, and do it, man. Do not let Team Ragnarok, Team Rubicon tell you differently.
Right.
You play it.
You play that shit.
It sounds like I'm poking fun, but I was involved in a group chat many years ago, or many months ago, with Glass Cabinet, and a couple guys from Rubicon were involved, and they mentioned that it's been really hard to get Scott to stop playing that team. It's been a challenge for them, and I think the power batteries might have been the final stopping point, because you just don't have to assign with it and then go kill those Iron Men.
Yeah.
So next, and I believe this is the last question we've accumulated, unless somebody's got a second one right now. Nope. All right. Clicksland Media asks, with all the new Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man out, what piece at both cost values would you use with the split and merge for the Avengers Prime? I got to be honest with you. Chaos Wars was a weird time for me. I was just getting back into the game, and that set just kind of disappeared by the time me and Amber started buying some packs. So as far as the chases were concerned, we maybe got, by the end of it, 1 or 2 of them, and I'm actually still trying to get the Ant-Man Wasp, which is the one I'm most interested in. But if I was to pick something to turn into Avengers Prime, thinking in the Golden Age, what are the lowest points on all of them? Actually, you know what? With the Avengers starter set that I saw, there's a 50-point Captain America in there. So, and I seriously don't want to extend this, because I got to catch up on some TV shows tonight. So next week, I tell you what, Clicksland Media, I'll take this to next week's episode myself. And once we see that Avengers Classic starter set and we talk about it more in depth, and I've actually had a chance to kind of bring it all in, I will let you know if those guys actually make the cut. But as it stands right now, Avengers split and merge has always been one of those things I'm still kind of on. It's a cool mechanic, and it's a great idea to bring in a really beastly character. But you kind of have to have the points on the board in the first place. So with Avengers Prime, I'm not, as far as splitting goes, you got a ton of options. As far as merging goes, it's not going to be my first go-to. Mike, your thoughts?
I actually haven't used the mechanic before. It's a relatively new mechanic for me. I was talking to somebody the other day about it, how it actually works, and I still don't really understand it. So, I mean, after the show, I'm sure I could ask you, how that actually works. But I mean, it's one of those older mechanics that we haven't seen really in play in more recent sets. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yep. All right. That said, that's all the questions we have today. So thank you guys for asking those questions. By this weekend, we are going to announce the winner of the Pandora's Box tournament. One team has made a hell of a run through it and got beat by Kenny's team because we added Kenny's team into the mix. And, well, it's a hard team to beat. But it did put up a war against it. So, and I'm not going to mention names. You all have to find out this weekend. Or actually, we're probably going to announce it next week on the Metal Lab. Let's do that. Let's announce it next week on the Metal Lab. Who won or who got the furthest? Because it looks like one team has gotten the furthest, and it's not really a competition going into the end of it. But that said, we do have ROC Provincials is coming up, and for those of you in the Ontario province, we do have one. It is in Toronto at 401 Games. The address there is 518 Yonge Street. It's going to be on June 27th. We're going to get more details as far as registration and everything is concerned. Don't forget that these ROC Provincials are part of the 300-point Modern Age full tactics allowed. So plan for that when you're thinking about these teams, these tournaments. We do have a couple lead-in tournaments going into it. I can definitely vouch for one as official at Comic Warehouse on May the 30th. We're starting at 10 a.m. as registration. Tournament, we're hoping to start at 11 a.m. if I can shut up eventually. Myself and Amber will be judging that one. And, of course, winner for these feeders gets free entry into Provincials on the 27th. My tournament at Comic Warehouse is going to be $10 at 20 Strathern Avenue in Brampton. I know I've mentioned the venue quite a few times. It's the one I play at regularly on Saturdays around 1 p.m. Sorry?
I'll be there.
Mike's going to be there. It is pretty low space.
Yeah. There's also going to be, there are a couple more of them. One of them is still tentative. We're trying to nail down one in Whitby. But I know that on the 20th of June, it's about a week and a half before the actual event. Or no, it's 1 week before the actual event. It's the 21st on the Sunday there. It's going to be at Wizards Cache on Bloor Street here in Toronto as well. And the time is to be determined yet, but it is officially going to be happening there on the 20th, which is the Sunday there. Another one I believe is at there's going to be one at Collective Conspiracy Comics in Hamilton as well. Between now and between the Comic Warehouse tournament and the Wizards Cache one. The Wizards Cache one will be the last of the feeder tournaments. Once again, the winner gets free entry into Provincials, and I'm sure there will be lots of prizes to be had.
Yeah, I know at the Comic Warehouse we've been adding to the prize pool ourselves as well. There's that wonderful Winamap prize kit, which comes with the awesome ROC action or object tokens, or you can use them as action tokens. They're poker chips.
Yep.
Would be really nice to see the Megalodon show up at our venue this time. That shark is really cool looking, and so are the gnomes. Also, that very, very nice vinyl felt type map made by Grid Reality. Very, very nice material. I've had a chance to play on them, and the figures just kind of bounce onto it. It's so like gentle and wonderful.
Yeah, and they don't slide because there's ridges, which is really nice.
Yeah.
I believe it's Assassin's Alley is the one that will be included in this kit, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, well, I know Assassin's Alley is the one that's currently supposed to be running, and it should be the ones that we get. And I believe Assassin's Alley is also being handed out to the Provincials, but the Provincials are going to be noted with the venue that you're at and the fact that you won it at Provincials, which is a really cool idea. All right, so that said, that's our announcements for the week. Thank you guys for joining us, and don't forget, practice makes your team better.